I have started recording. And let's take a look here. Okay, moving on. First of all, my name's Jim Lee. I work here at CESA 12, who's the School Support Services Center. I've been a comrade of Andy Eaton, our local current technical ed person. He retired this December. I'm filling in for him at this point in time until we find a new Andy to take that role. But I've worked with Carl Perkins in the past. I would like to introduce a few other folks to you here, and just let you know that I'm very appreciative of the fact that they've joined in with us. Dave Stroud, from the president of WTEA, Brent Kindred, tech ed consultant from DPI, and Sylvia Tayella from UW Stout. I really do appreciate that, and I've asked them to help get us started with the conversation here. So Dave, you want to say hi? We'll go with Dave, Brent, and Sylvia, and just get
Sure. Happy to be here. I attended another chat like this last week with Sylvia, and then one yesterday through CESA 7. There was probably about 30 people on that one. So another good way to get a bunch of ideas about how we're going to deal with educating our students moving forward here. So I've started to create a list of things students can be doing from home. We also had a lot of good conversation about safety. What we're asking our students to do better be probably something that's not going to get them hurt. So I can talk more about that later if it comes up.
Great, great. Brent?
Hello, Jim. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me on. I think all of us have been spending a fair amount of time virtually talking and sharing. I've been on many distance conversations over the course of the past couple of weeks, but I certainly want to say thank you to everybody. Doesn't matter if you're at a CESA, if you're at a middle school, high school. These are certainly some strange times, but by the traffic on the listserv, it is very evident that we are all in this together, and there's been such an outpouring of everybody sharing, bouncing ideas, and sharing some really great resources, so that we as a community can continue to help our students learn in these challenging times. So I'm looking forward to the next hour plus of being a part of this conversation.
So before we go to Sylvia, Brent, you had a question about how do you get on the list, or I can type that into the chat if you let folks know.
Yeah, it's a great question. Is all you have to do is send me an email asking to be put onto the listserv, and I am typing in my email address right now. For anybody who does not have that, you'll see that in the chat bar.
Okay, thank you. And then we have Sylvia from UW Stout. Do you mind saying a few words?
Hi, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to be involved in this meeting. I appreciate it. I am a professor at UW Stout in the Teaching, Learning, and Leadership department, but I'm also the WTEA area District A rep. So I've been trying to have meetings with our district area A, and thanks for having me be here. Hopefully I can contribute in a way that helps all of you folks move forward.
Actually, Sylvia, it was your original hosting of this that kind of, I had been thinking about what are we going to do to help our tech ed teachers at the CESA level as this whole school closures thing came around, and you hosted, I think, probably the first one of these in the state. So I went to school by sitting in on that the other last week on Tuesday, and I very much appreciate you doing that.
Thank you, and I'm glad you came to it. I was afraid I would be the only one at the meeting, so I'm glad folks came.
If we don't mind, just so you get used to using the mute unmute button, and give everyone a chance to hear your voice a moment. Just go around quickly and introduce who is here from the CESA 12 and any other school that may have joined. And we can start out. Is there anyone here from Ashland?
I'm from Ashland. I'm the Ashland Middle School tech ed teacher. Been teaching there for 4 years.
Hey, Lance.
Terry Lee Pasternich, also from Ashland High School. Been there 3 years.
Yeah, thank you. How about anyone else from Ashland? Yeah, not. How about Bayfield?
There is no Washburn.
Dave's not online. How about Schwamigan or Butternut?
Yeah, Mike Stoiber, Schwamigan, middle school and high school. I've been here 4 years.
Great, great. Moving on to Drummond.
This is Al Gilbert. I guess I don't know how long I've been at Drummond, but 4 or 6 years or something like that. I don't know. Probably longer.
All right. Anyone from Butternut? How about then we move on to Hayward? No. Hurley? No. Let's move on then to Maple.
Good afternoon, Lawrence Charlier here. I've been here now. This is my 3rd year in Maple. So glad to be here.
Thanks for joining, Lawrence. Mellon? Mercer? Northwood?
Yep, been here. I actually had to count because I'm losing count. That's probably a bad sign. 8 years at Northwood.
Yeah. Let's move on to Phillips. Anyone from Phillips? How about South Shore or Solon Springs? Superior? Washburn?
Yeah, Pat Ehring. I think this is my 3rd year with Tech Ed, 5th year at Washburn.
Okay. And Winter? Is there anyone from another school district that didn't get a chance to say hi?
Hi, this is John Vanderus. I'm from Marathon High School, currently teaching drafting, woods, and engineering, and this is my 6th year at Marathon.
Well, thanks for joining us. Welcome to CESA 12. So today I thought we'd start off just by having a conversation on kind of in 3 topic areas. I think once we get going, it might just all merge into one. But one topic is, how are schools delivering tech ed in a school at home kind of a setting? The second idea was to talk about what are folks doing to modify their curriculum, their instruction, their assessment, using online tools, or using, I guess, what I've started referring to as the packet-based learning approach, the course in a box kind of a thing, gets mailed home or delivered somehow. And then also towards the end here, I'd like to talk about if there is any interest amongst the tech ed teachers working together on dividing up some topics and maybe designing some online units that they could share with each other in the region. So those are sort of the topics for today. I just would like to also add, if you have other things that are really burning for you, say I really need an answer to this right now, please just ask it, put it in the chat, turn on your mic, and we'll address that as we move along. So I think that first concept of delivery, I was hopeful that our guests from DPI and WTEA and UW Stout could maybe talk just a little bit about what are you hearing across the state about different things schools are doing to deliver tech ed. And well, this slide is here not to talk about everything, but just as a conversation starter, that's it. So Dave or Brent or Sylvia, you got some news for us up here about what you see happening across the state?
So one of the things that I would like to do is back up the conversation one step, and that is to an idea that all of us in teacher prep and all of you folks in teacher prep already know, and that is that it's about your students. And for us at the university, looking at both our teachers in the field, our teachers at Stout, and our students who are gonna be teachers or are just students, one of the first things that all of us really need to think about is where our learners are physically and emotionally. So as we start the conversation, consider what I've been hearing and what I know from my students is, one, I still have students that living in poverty or for whatever reason cannot go home. Maybe there's COVID virus at home. They don't have access to the internet. They don't have access to a phone, and I have not heard from them in days. Some of my students are going home to abusive situations. Some of my students are going home or have children at home. Some of my students are in healthcare. And so this will be, you know, what your parents are, maybe not what your students see, but some of them are healthcare workers who've been called to work long shifts and long hours. If you take a look at the K-12 students, keep in mind that if you're about ready to graduate, you know, you aren't having your spring dance, you aren't having your graduation ceremony. What's the prospect of you finding a job? So before you can teach the students, please find out just where they're at and what they need. So it's great to talk about curriculum, but before you do that, figure out where your students are and what they need.
Yeah, I'll jump in. That's a great point, Sylvia. And I think from what I've heard from a lot of school districts as of right now is we don't want to be too hard on the students with content and grading and things like that. We're just kind of in review mode until we get our feet set here and figure out what's going to happen the rest of the year. Really giving kids opportunities to get work in, to improve past work, not really a lot of new content yet at this point. And just, you know, working with them the best we can because of, you know, some of those situations that Sylvie was just talking about. So it seems like the good things I'm hearing is that a lot of people do recognize those things and are doing whatever we can to make sure that the kids are going to possibly continue to learn and be successful and not have this to be an additional stressor on their lives, which are probably already very stressful.
From my perspective, I've had an opportunity to talk to quite a few teachers in school districts across the state. It really is evident that the school districts, some were better prepared for this than others, but at the same point, it doesn't matter how prepared you were. Is everybody's in the same boat right now as far as trying to deliver CTE content to our students and developing middle school content, developing high school content across the board. And it'll be interesting throughout the course of this phone call to hear kind of some of the success stories that that you as teachers in CESA 12 have been having, so that we can share those as well with other teachers across the state.
Thank you. I guess I would kind of like to hear from our CESA 12 folks as you ventured into this. I mean, in relation to topics that Sylvia and Brent and Dave brought up. I mean, what are you finding out there? What have been some of the strategies you've been using? What have you been finding about kids' access? Has equity become in terms of access, become a pretty large concern? Are kids responding to your preliminary stuff? What ideas has your school adopted for working through this phase of the getting used to learning from home?
One thing I've found is that you got to slow way down. I've got my welders on the Miller Open Book, and I set them up in there, set the school up in there, but you can't just load them down with, a module a day kind of thing. They need about 3 or 4 days, so maybe 2 a week kind of thing to really get them going, and then have any kind of a conversation with them via Google Classroom. Takes what you would do in the classroom once takes about 60 steps now with email and Google Classroom, and with me, Facebook or whatever other means I have to get a hold of the kids. So it's taking an incredibly much larger amount of time for me to get the information disseminated, get it back from them, and then make sure everybody's on the same page. Also, for anyone doing welding, the American Welding Society just opened up their curriculum for a month for free, and it's easy to sign up. And again, I put the kids in there, just hoping that it's another access for my welders to get information, and I'll go through and disseminate the modules there for them.
I know in Ashland, we're still in the process. The first week that we were out of school was our spring break, so we were just trying to organize a little bit. And this past week, we've been trying to reach all of our students. We have a high number of students that do not have adequate internet. So we're just trying to figure out where we're at this point. We've been asked to slow way down, and right now I'm trying to collect information on what students are doing outside of being at school, what type of projects they're working on, and we're looking at trying to incorporate some kind of project-based learning models to give them credit for what they're working on now. So instead of us giving them projects, trying to give them credit for what projects they're already working on.
At the middle school level in Ashland, we were told that we're supposed to create a collective Google Classroom for all of our arts, so in the core classes, and we're going to be putting on a document that will have a bunch of different activities for each subject area, and the kids just have to do one activity from one of the areas each day. We're not really giving specific set of projects or assignments. We're just supposed to do that. I'm going to echo some things that Terry had already said, that our internet access is horrible where we are at. I drove around quite a bit yesterday, and I didn't even have cell phone service in a good portion of the drive I took yesterday. So it's like it's virtually impossible to do some of this online learning that they're trying to do because the internet access is just so horrible. My thought of the lack of resources up here would be to do central topics of something that everybody has, do how to get your lawnmower ready for the year, or how to make it running better. Do simple ideas to help explain how a carburetor works, or just something that everybody might potentially have at their house, and just do little things something centrally that everybody can potentially do at home, but not necessarily assign specific projects because the lack of resources, in addition to the internet not being around, is tough up here.
This is Lawrence from Maple. So again, we're on spring break. It says my internet connection is unstable. Are you able to hear me well?
You're okay, Lawrence. One of the things, if you do run into that, you just stop your video too. That should improve in case if you're running into audio problems.
I'll stop my video.
There you go.
Just assume I'm just the same handsome person that I was a minute ago. So no, so our initial thing was during spring break then was to lean forward and get teachers trained up. So I did there were a lot of training sessions offered through CESA 12 that a lot of our teachers took advantage of. I was able to also do a lot of training through Zoom. We initially went and, there's a lot of things that we have the binders put on for security reasons, I guess, during normal operations, Google Hangouts and things like that, which we then appealed to the district to remove from the block list. So kids have access to a lot of other features in Google that they normally wouldn't have, that they removed immediately in response to, different, communication we recognize being the big block right away. We reached out to all of our students. At this point, I think I have about 3 students among my 100 students that I see or saw, I guess, every day that I haven't been in contact with yet. And so I normally operate through Google Classroom every day, all year long anyhow, so it was pretty seamless there. We have a lot of teachers who didn't use it. They're all embracing it now and using it. I guess challenges here in Maple, it's the end of the quarter for me. So I'm just kind of wrapping up loose ends here and starting a new quarter on Monday. So I've begun rewriting my syllabi to recognize the fact that we're going into virtual communication, new rules and new tools, I guess. So what are classroom procedures concerning, Zoom meetings versus, physical classroom? I have other challenges, like I'm starting intro to welding or intro to metals, which is GMAW welding articulated through WITC, which I recognized last week, Monday, was probably not going to be a go. So I, at that point, made some, I guess, kind of strategic moves back then where I took my entire remaining budget for gas and metal and called my superintendent and ordered 3D printers with all of my remaining budget. So now I have 29 fieldable 3D printers, which will be delivered to my students in what was going to be intro to welding is now switched over to CAD, which is going to be delivered through Google Classroom, Google SketchUp, and Tinkercad classrooms where there'll be 3D printing. So there'll be some manipulative, actual physical 3D printed experience for my 2 sections of intro to CAD now. That's going to take place. So we're pretty excited about that. And then they'll be brought back. We have a decontamination room that's going to decontaminate the equipment. Second class, our second rotation through it. So we're pretty excited about that. I got that ordered last Monday. I'm assembling 3D printers. That's why I'm actually in this school right now doing that. So, and also teaching, actually, Terry, you probably still have my curriculum for this, tiny house. So I'm switching over my Tiger Manufacturing, going to be kind of hard to run that. So we're actually going to do architectural drafting and design during Tiger Manufacturing with a focus on tiny house development. And then still posting everything to our Tiger Manufacturing social media. So that kind of still keeping everybody abreast of what we're doing. So other than that, we're pursuing Haas certification in our Metals 1 class. So we're still going to keep true to Metals 1, doing Haas certification. Hopefully when all this is over, then traveling to Plymouth, Minnesota and getting the actual certification from the Haas dealer there when it's done. And then within, I had a couple of independent studies there. So we're going to continue to pursue the industry certifications, NAEP certifications that we were looking at there, just in a distance learning setting now. And that's about the big and small what we have going
here. Our other districts, what are you doing? How are you addressing some kids have access, some kids don't?
Hello. At Drummond, we have some kids who have access to the Google Classroom and computers. But I've been doing, having kids do projects, and the thing that ties everything together is the theme of, this spring theme is work smarter, not harder. And I'm having kids improve their critical path to a project. So it doesn't matter what their project is. I've had kids clean out cabinets. I have a girl who never worked with, she passed all the safety tests, never worked with wood in class. She just was doing our manufacturing stuff, but her and her dad are making some cornhole games. But the thing that ties it all together is that kids, they have to send me some photos of what they've done, and then they have to talk about their critical path and how it could be improved. For kids that don't have any projects in mind, the first week, I had them build a house of cards with playing cards, and to see how tall they could get it, and how they solved the problems of the card slipping and stuff like that. So we're just trying to do anything we can to get the kids thinking about being more efficient. And anyway, that's all we're doing.
Are any of you out there using anything other than Google Classroom or Zoom, or are you doing any kind of like just an internet web page kids can go to, or are you doing a course in a box, just gathering stuff together and sending it? What other kinds of delivery methods have we dealt with? I know originally on some of the delivery methods, the concern about how do you get it there, how do you get it back, and then how do you make sure it's I guess sterilized or whatever, so that you're not passing infection around or the germs around. What have some districts been doing in that regard?
I've been using Electude. It's an automotive online site through NTC out of Wausau sent it to me. So it's got lots of online trainers for the kids. You can set up different modules at different times. It shows who's logged in, who's did it, who didn't, how they did. The kids don't love it, but at least it's something. It seems to be working. At least it tracks a little bit of movement for the kids. So I think it's a step in the right direction. We also at Shawamgan use Google Classroom, Google Hangouts, Google Meets, all that stuff. And I have also been making packets for my middle school kids, and they send them out, and at some point in time they'll come back, and I'm not sure, like you said, with the disinfection, or how are they going to do that before we grade them, or if we grade, I don't know what that looks like yet.
Yeah. Well, we've been talking about methods, so that was kind of the next screenshot there. Is project-based learning can be delivered in a variety of ways, whether it's teacher-led or self-directed. There is a link up there to a project planner. If anyone's interested in this slide deck, I'll share it with you. But if folks have links to some great resources, throw them in the chat, because that's the quickest way to share the link. There is another resource at the bottom I just mentioned. It's called the New Teacher Project. shifting to at-home learning. It's an interesting discussion about how to get ready for and then begin delivering at-home instruction. And it's got advice at the district leaders, for teachers, and for parents in it. And it kind of breaks down the whole process into a couple phases. And one I heard echoed a little bit here earlier was the phase of, let's take time to plan it out before we jump into it. And I've heard of some districts doing that. So I'm kind of curious what other efforts are out there. Ben, how's Northwood replying?
We are, yeah. I've been kind of doing a variety of things, which I'm sure some of you are doing as well. I've spent some time doing some teacher training, and we're trying to build a centralized temporary website that parents can access all of their teachers' content quickly. So I've been doing some of those things. We're not one-to-one, but we were able to get Chromebooks in the hands of kids that need them, which was fortunate. And so far, about half of my classes are, I've had 100% participation online. The other half, I just don't really know where to go with them, because it's I got a guitar building class, I have a woodworking class, and then my enterprise class too. I'm kind of struggling with those. So yeah, the Haas certification's been great. That's been keeping my metals class moving forward. I got an IT class that was already online. All my kids were already on Google Classroom. Middle schoolers are moving forward with 3D modeling, with SketchUp, like Lawrence was saying. So mine's kind of a 50-50 bag in terms of some pretty cool successes. And then, in terms of the projects, I guess the thing I'm concerned with, and I'm curious to hear, I think Dave mentioned something about maybe liabilities, kids working on projects at home. But I have kids that already have started woodworking projects. They have money invested into materials. They got guitar, the guitars, same thing, money invested into it. They're about halfway done with these things. So I'm curious if there's other districts, and maybe Brent knows this or Tialo knows this, there's other districts toying with the ideas after a little bit of time, allowing a kid or two to come in to work on some of those, or if that, I thought I heard some murmurings of that, or maybe that's totally not, that's hearsay. But just with the idea of money's already being invested into products and materials. So what do you do with that? I don't have an answer for that one yet.
Ben, this is Brent.
Go ahead, Brent.
Sorry, Sylvia, I'll be quick. The second part of your question, Ben, as far as what to do with the money or the money that the student has invested, I don't have an answer to that. But as far as the first part of your question about hearing about students returning to school, at least in some capacity, this is the first that I've heard of that. That even if it's one student or minimal amount of students, I personally haven't heard of school districts doing that, but I'd be interested if anybody on this particular virtual meeting has heard of that.
I am terribly interested in hearing something about that. I have a house sitting outside waiting for siding that I have to sell before I can start a house next year. So it's more than just a small project waiting for some resolution. So as soon as anybody hears anything, I'd be terribly interested in hearing.
And Lawrence, was that you speaking?
Yes, sir, that was me.
All right, thank you.
I guess to clarify what I was saying, and this might have been in the week of everything changing in 20-minute and hour-minute increments. That's probably where I got that. I think it was my soup that was mentioning that, maybe the possibility, because at that time the numbers were a little bit bigger in terms of how many people could be gathering in a room. So the concept of, you know, if you could keep it, you know, 5 or 6 kids at a time and finishing some things like that, maybe it wouldn't be a big deal if there was space for them to work and you weren't necessarily requiring for them. I think like my juniors and seniors, as they're finishing out, they don't maybe need the direct instruction, and they just need to get some projects finished. Obviously, things have changed, things are extended, but that was the initial part that I was hearing. So it's piqued my interest. If I could stretch that out once a week and have a few kids come in, I have pretty small numbers in some of my classes, so that has potential for being doable, but we obviously haven't done anything with that.
So Ben, how far along are the projects? Are they the kind, especially like the guitars, are they where they just need to be sanded, or do they need special tools to finish them? The idea being, can you get them to a point where here you have an almost finished project, here's sandpaper, here's stain, here's the stuff you need, and then you could post a video or something like that, like here's your next step, here's your next step, and then have them log on and finish on? And can they, like, how many of your students have phone apps? Because all of us are used to needing a laptop, but I know many of my students and younger students can access using a phone.
Yeah, I'd say overall, I've been impressed with the access to internet and technology they have. I'm not getting 100% in all my classes, but I'm getting more than I thought I was going to be getting. So I don't think that technology would be the holdback. Some of my kids, I think one of my kids actually sent me pictures. He snuck all of his guitar stuff out, and he was far enough along that he's going to finish it. That won't be a problem. So I was getting some cool pictures back from him. So I have probably a third of my class, you know, that could probably do that. And then the other ones would probably need a little bit of coaching, because for the guitars, we're actually fretting the necks. So there are some specialty tools that they would need. I definitely have, you know, videos that I can share. That all, it could be. I just would need a little bit of time with potentially small groups. So if I could do that in short chunks spread over some time, I think I could get the physical products done, and maybe I wouldn't be integrating all the in-class activities that I was originally planning to do, but I think we could get the products. But they're all in that half-ish way done. So I would just feel bad if they couldn't finish it, especially the seniors.
Brett,
so there's a possibility in that if there's some wiggle room to use small groups.
Ben, I don't even know at this point with the Safer at Home that's even a issue that we could even do. I know our school has totally shut down, even to admin, as of 4 p.m. tonight, for insurance reasons that with the school. The school's insurance doesn't want anybody there exposed to anyone. So my guess is most schools are probably going that same route as much as possible. But we did allow students to come and get things out of their lockers and stuff, and maybe your school's willing to let the kids come get their stuff.
We're
checking.
We've been out since, I don't know, well, it's been a week and a half, almost 2 weeks now, but they are making noise. I saw an email this morning that they may allow staff back in the building on a limited basis starting April 6th. So I don't know what that looks like for you either, Ben. You may, that's a conversation you need to have with your admin and find out. I don't know if you're locked out of the building. We haven't been able to go back, so.
Yeah, at this point, I'm not as concerned about that. And I think, to Terry's point, I'm not trying any of this right now because everyone's supposed to be at home. But, just curious if that, apparently no one else has heard of that or is doing that. It would free up and make some pretty unique I think it would make it more of a blended learning environment, which might be helpful, but we're probably a little bit too fresh into this to get to that point right now.
It seems it varies by district, whether or not you can get in. I had a screening I had to go through, hand sanitation, temperature, hand sanitation, log it in, and get out of the foyer, and then I have to sit away from other people, which makes sense. But here's something I offered my kids, and maybe I'm stretching things a little bit, but they were in the middle of a design portfolio. They work on different things, community-based problems with real solutions. So, and I'd like to see those things come to fruition. So, and here's where having a Fab Lab is a very nice thing, because the Fab Labs must go on, even when this is over. So I offered to them that I will be here with them once this is lifted, once it blows over, even if it's, and I know I can say this because there's a Fab Lab and there's a community aspect to it. So I'll be here with them, finishing those projects, making them happen once this is over in the Fab Lab. Even though it's their regular projects, we'll be finishing, getting them out and presenting them to the community members when it's all over. So, and they're excited because they're vested in those projects. So it's going to happen. And so that's a nice, and that's an angle maybe you can work as well, you know. So even if whatever the school's policy is and liability and whatever else, if you have a Fab Lab, you have a way of getting those kids to be able to finish their projects with them once this is all blows over. And having that, you know, I guess getting back to Sylvia, when you were talking about speaking to the kids' frame of mind, just having those, the first thing I did with kids with each class, I gave them 2 days notice. We're going to have a Zoom meeting. And we talked about absolutely nothing to do with the class, just sort of centering, like, how are you? What are you going through? And how, you know, how's everybody doing? And every class, somebody, at least one person said, oh God, that's exactly what I needed. But one of the things we did talk about was, how are we going to wrap this up? What's going to happen to your projects? Because I really care about your projects. They all needed to hear that, and that we're going to get it done. And I know I can get it done because I have a Fab Lab, and we're going to do it because of the Fab Lab. So that's maybe something you can use.
Following up on Lawrence's comment, you don't really need a Fab Lab. You can say, I'm going to be here for you after this is done, and the lab will be open. I'll open it special times. So when it's all done, know that you can come back. There's nothing special about a Fab Lab. A Fab Lab is a philosophical construct with some tools in it.
I was only saying that in respect to, I don't know, I enjoy the support of my community, my school board, my administration, everyone. So I could say that I can come into my lab, but I was gathering that.
Right. So, and I'm not disagreeing, Lawrence, it's a great idea and Fab Labs are wonderful. But what I'm saying is that that's a really good idea and it's great for a Fab Lab, but all of you have labs and all of you can put that out there that, hey, when this is all done, we'll have a special work night, we'll have special work hours, or if you've graduated, you can come back and we will make this happen. So.
Sandra D, you put in the chat something about working with a business. I'm kind of curious, could you explain it maybe a little bit more?
Sure. So I'm the ag teacher at Ashland High School, and I'm working because agriculture is considered an essential business. I'm working with a greenhouse, so they're still in operation. They let me come in today and plant all the plants that we're going to distribute to kids. So they'll do it just like they're picking up the food at the schools. They'll do a drive-by pickup, and we'll just load one flat of plants and a hanging basket for the kids, and then each student is going to develop their project from there. So I never thought of doing that to to work through a business because our administration won't let me in. The greenhouse is not attached to the school, but they won't let us in there either. So going this route, I think limiting the student access, but at least you could get materials maybe through a business if you have relationships with your businesses in town.
Yeah, great idea. And Dave, I see you've taken on completing the projects.
Yeah, I asked the kids for permission to do that. They're all very close. We were in the last about week and a half of the term. So, they were just at the very end of getting them built, and then they just have to sand and apply a finish of some sort. But I offered to at least finish building any that were unfinished and getting them prepped so that, if we do come back, again, I'll make time for them to come in and put a finish on there or something like that. But I just feel bad because I don't think that they're going to have the opportunity to come back during the school year. The ones that are seniors aren't going to possibly be ever come back to the building. So I just, and if that happens, I'm more than happy to deliver it to their house, leave it on their front porch if that's the case. But I just feel bad because, they invested, whatever money it costs to take the class. And some of them are very close, and because of this, if I don't step in, they might never have that project. So the bigger concern is I have 2 more classes like that next term. They're going to be brand new, and I don't know how we're going to do any sort of woodworking at a distance. So I'm trying to get that figured out right now.
Interesting. I'm impressed by the way teachers across the region and the state are stepping up and trying to really help their kids out. It's very impressive. Is there any other kinds of things out there going on in the region, that someone might want to share on how they're going about, what methods they're using at all?
I came in a little bit late on the meeting here. I'm sorry about that. So I see you have the pblworks.org project planner up there, and that's something that I'm just sharing with our department as we look at trying to offer multidisciplinary credit, so students can work on maybe one project and get credit for everything. And I apologize if you've talked about that already, but that site that you have listed there has some really excellent, easy to use resources where students have to really, I think, and I'll use the example of one of our students, Terry Lee, has the kid with the building his shed. That that's a project, but maybe there ought to be a little bit more focus on what's the student going to learn, because maybe he's done 4 of those before. It's not just doing the work, but kind of thinking about what you're doing and walking through if you have problems and identifying those problems and how you solve them, and then reflecting on that afterwards. So I think if we're having kids do 1 or 2 projects at the most during this time, so that we're not putting any additional stress on families, that it'd be nice to have that information so that students can kind of think about that as they're working through whatever it is that they're doing.
Yeah. I think maybe there's another point we were going to talk about. Here are a few resources out there that can help with tech ed teachers, that just places to go and look up and get maybe ideas from, if nothing else. But I'm curious, what other kinds of sources are you using? I heard a conversation about an online, it sounded like an online textbook, and are there some other kinds of things that you all have out there? Brent, have you heard
Jim,
anything?
just really quickly, are you sharing these slides with us?
Yeah, I put a link into the chat. I'll do it again.
No, I mean afterwards. Is there a way we can access these after?
Yeah, there's a link right in the chat. You can access them right there.
Thank you.
Sources, anything else? Anybody else?
Lawrence mentioned the Haas certification. I'm using that. It's really easy to use. It's you can issue those out. They're short videos and quizzes to take, and then it can turn into a physical trip to Plymouth and actually get a little certificate for the kids in the long run. So I feel like that's worthy of people's time if they haven't looked into it. That's kind of what I would recommend.
Do you have a link to that, Ben, that you could throw in the chat there? There we go. Cool. Thank you. Other things people have found helpful? Have you been hearing of anything, Dave or Brent or Sylvia? I know Sylvia, you've thrown a few things in there. That's great in the chat. So I will try to make the chat also available when we do the recording. The Henry Ford Museum. Cool.
Hey, Jim.
The reason why I put that in there is there were heard from a couple of teachers some virtual resources that are out there, whether it's the Henry Ford Museum for potentially an automotive area. Also heard about Mercury Marine has some videos that they offer as well as, and Pierce Fire Truck as well. Obviously, both Pierce and Mercury are Wisconsin-based companies that that some people are using in their classes. So those are some resources. And in the chat, I included the Henry Ford Museum resource as well.
Cool. Isaac, you had something?
Yeah, I was just going to say that Lab Midwest has reached out to me several times, and I've had a webinar with Mike Dietrich there from Amatrol.
Okay.
Amatrol is offering a pretty good discount, and you might be able to negotiate a free subscription for the rest of the year, but they offer e-trainers for all sorts of subjects, whether it be CTE, even science classes as well. So you may want to look on the Amatrol.
Do you have a link for that, Isaac?
Yeah, I can. Yep, I'll add it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else got some cool stuff? Yeah, it's a good question there. Liability from home for kids working on a project. I haven't heard anything about that. I've certainly wondered about it as well. Has the association or the department had any thoughts about that, or?
We talked about it yesterday at a different virtual meeting, and I'm not a lawyer. I would recommend either your district make some sort of liability form or waiver, or talk to a lawyer and see what they have to think. But my undergraduate is in safety management, and I just feel that if we tell students to do something at home and they get hurt doing it, we're going to be liable for it. So I would say, or I would advise, think hard about what you're asking students to do. Even if you put in there that students have to be supervised by their parents, if that parent has no training, then that doesn't really help either. So everything that I'm gonna, because we're planning for our fourth term that has not started yet, everything that we're gonna probably do with our students is gonna be pencil, paper, calculator, computer at most. I just don't feel comfortable asking a student to do anything that could possibly get them hurt. So, but again, I would check with your districts and see what their thoughts are.
Thanks, Dave. That's kind of what I've been thinking.
I think David's words are very wise. Obviously, for those of us in CTE and certainly tech ed, safety is always on our minds from the time that we were little, and certainly from our when we were in high school as tech ed students, and certainly through our pre-service teaching as well. So I really can't add anything to what Dave said. You know, just really think about, you know, the types of activities that you're having your students do, and safety, safety, safety.
Mhm. So we can't have them go out and grab their dad's welder and finish that project, huh?
That might be difficult. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
I have had some students that have sent me videos and pictures of them working with their parents on things, not that I've assigned, but you know, just doing outside already. I had one kid, Lawrence, you'd enjoy this. He was trying to weld cast iron and having a lot of fun with that. So anyway, I am getting some of that from my students without even my pushing.
Yeah, that's kind of where we're at too. I'm not asking the students to do any projects. However, if they are doing projects at home with their parents or otherwise, they can send that to me. And then we're planning on having that project-based learning form, sheet, whatever, that they can fill out that has to do with that, send pictures of what they're doing, but I'm not asking them to do the project. So I don't know where that falls in there. You know, are we still liable if they get hurt doing something that I didn't ask them to do?
Hey, Terry, do
I
you
think that
have,
if you're giving, I'm sorry.
well, I was gonna say, do you have that form or that packet finished? Is that something you can share?
I don't have it ready yet. We're still working
Okay.
on it.
I would think if you accept that from students, you're okay, as long as there's an alternate way they could also get credit for learning in your class. But again, if you require them to do something for a grade for your course, that's, I think, when you would be in trouble or could be liable. If they're just doing it on their own and they're working with parents and they want to ask if they can use that as then if you say yes, I would think you'd be covered.
Okay, because we're not, at this point, we're not even grading. We're actually looking at a pass, no pass for the rest of the year. So we have too many inequities, issues at this point to grade anything.
And that's
So
a
it's like the
question,
PI
something.
teachers at my kids' school, they're just asking kids to go and be active for 30 minutes a day. That could be anything, you know, and those things, I guess, could get them hurt as well, but they're just asking them in general, be active for 30 minutes a day, and that'll be their PI ed.
I think too, like, you gotta try and like figure out a way to get all these students into it. So I mean, you can keep it simple, stupid, like PLTW has their challenges where you are building a simple, you know, like a popcorn holder out of one piece of paper, and they have to, you know, build a PowerPoint that has all the steps of the design process in there. Another one too is just building a desktop organizer out of cardboard. Now I've got like a couple students that are saying, oh, I don't have cardboard. Okay, well, you know, make it out of wood, make it out of something else. I don't care what you make it out of. Just get creative, have fun with it, and do what you can.
Well, these are good, great ideas, and thanks for sharing in the chat. It looks like there's quite a few resources that are flowing through here. I guess we'll look at the sort of the final step to this conversation today, and that was, you know, what are your questions? What are your concerns? We've talked a bit about that. We've talked some about the obstacles. But if there's anything more there that we should make a list of, it helps inform CESA in a way that maybe we can do some digging into that, or perhaps Brent at TPI or the WTEA can maybe have some resources or some answers or something for us to refer to. And I guess the last part of the talk is there if you have any specific requests, you know, ship it at least the CESA way. Brett, I don't know if you're open for business on taking those kinds of requests, but.
Absolutely. Again, most people know how to get a hold of me, but if not, it's again, I put my email address in the chat sidebar as well. Don't hesitate reaching out to me.
I heard
Hey,
safety,
Jim.
I heard delivery are two big topics for.
Jim, just a quick question. Is there any chance that we could continue, or maybe some of you don't want to or do want to, like on a weekly or every other week or something, just getting together and sharing some of these ideas as we go along?
That was the other part. Thank you for bringing that up. So great point. I mean, as a CESA, we could certainly organize some sessions for continued networking. We've been doing that in some cases with some other aspects of our agency and services. We can certainly maybe even discuss the idea of if the tech ed teachers here would like to get together. One of the strategies I've heard in some of the districts in the academic courses that, where there's a grade full of teachers is they are pulling together and saying they each take a turn of developing a lesson that they all will share. It gets a little tougher in CTE if you're the only one to do that. So if there's any interest in doing that as a CESA region, we can certainly help host that and give you the platform for doing that. So what's your interest?
We've always kind of offered to do that for one another here. And I think, yeah, I mean, I would share anybody onto any of my stuff without hesitation.
Okay.
So if you're interested, I'm interested.
Ben is saying bi-weekly.
Sure. Why not?
Other thoughts?
Jim, I'll just chime in quick. Sorry I stepped in a little late. Running some maple syrup out there, running a finishing pan. We're not doing that much right now as far as grading either, like Terry said. We're just getting kids by right now, trying to keep them focused on the academics. Me and Jake are just doing the sharing projects that we're doing around the house, get some responses from the kids and just keeping them active. Very minimal share project ideas for next year, that kind of stuff. Just kind of a tough time of year to be throwing bookwork at kids for me. So yeah, keeping it pretty simple.
Okay. I've heard from a couple. Is there interest? I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to put you in my gallery view so I can see you all, or at least most of you. If you're interested in networking, do you want CESA to set up some times for you? Yes, no?
Yeah, I'd appreciate that.
Okay.
I would participate.
Okay. Thank you. What would be a time? Is this time okay? 3 o'clock?
Well, I hate to say it, I tend to be more of a morning person, and generally by midday I've got projects going on, hopefully doing stuff. later in the evening, I meet with students. Early in the morning, I meet with students. So I don't know, but that's my 2 cents. I'd rather have it in the morning, but
How about, for those I can see, how about the morning? Thumbs up. All right, like mid-morning?
yeah.
Mid-morning, okay. So I'll set something up. How long do you want to go? An hour? You start off with an hour, okay. And I guess the next one then, maybe we'll just talk about sharing. What are you using with students and how are they reacting out there? Is that a topic you want to address? And if there's any updates we hear about safety issues or maybe different school approaches to whether kids can come in the building or not. That's been a topic. I know picking up stuff that got sent home is also a topic. Both ways, if you send something, the concern about that being virus free, and if you pick up something that's also virus free. I know the grading conversation will probably be heating up a little bit more, and as well as the graduation conversation. That's most folks are saying, let's just hold off for a minute until we hear more about that. But if we wind up with this closure extending out past June, I'm certain there'll be a great deal more conversation about that. So, all right, is there a week of the day that is better? All right, we'll try and see if Tuesdays work, or maybe they'll be random. I don't know. We'll see. But we'll set it up and send it out to you. Any other thoughts? Sylvia, Dave, Brent?
I think you've done a great job of organizing this, and I have no additional thoughts other than I think it's really important for people to stay connected, if for nothing else. It could get awfully lonely sitting in your house all by yourself, so it's great to connect with other folks with similar interests and ideas to share. So if for nothing else, everyone's sanity, I would say keep it up.
One other thing too.
This is the third meeting I've been to like this, and I thought each one was extremely valuable. I got more ideas listening to other people from around the state talk. So, I mean, I don't know how you feel or if you think there'd be too many people, but for a couple of those meetings, we put it out on a listserv for every teacher in the state. If you're comfortable with that, you know, I mean, the biggest one I've been to so far was yesterday. That had about 31, 32 people in at a time. So I don't really think at any point we'd ever get to hundreds of people being in one of these meetings. But if you're okay with it to, you know, put it out there for the entire state, the more people, the more ideas, in my opinion. So I don't know what you guys think about that, but it's interesting to hear from people all over the state and the things that they're going through and to work together to help our students.
I'm open to it, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. If we can, Zoom can handle quite a few. So.
Okay, we will do that. One other thing that we did for the superintendents is we created sort of a listserv email. Do you guys have interest in that? What that means is anyone that's on the listserv can post to it. And that's another way of just communicating back and forth. And typically someone will post a question and say, hey, how are you handling this? And folks, reply. And you interested in that at all?
In the tech ed world, we kind of have one of those.
Okay.
And it has been pretty active. That's kind of what Brent was talking about a little bit ago. But
okay, Good, good.
One of the things I have that I'm seeing at Stout that I'm beginning to see here too is be careful. It's good that everybody has stuff, but be careful that there aren't so many places to go that people don't know where to go.
Yeah.
So if every CESA has their own listserv and every CESA has their own videos and as well as universities and organizations, particularly if you start looking at teaching or career and technical education as a whole, and it's good that there's a whole bunch of sources, but if there's a place or a way for somebody to say, here's a list of where to go, even that might be helpful. So I would, I don't think people should stop what they're doing, but also I would be a bit concerned about coordinating efforts and make sure we don't have 100,000 silos that are duplicating information or make it so hard for folks to find something that they can't find anything.
Great point, Sylvia. Appreciate it. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll work on setting up something from 2 weeks from now. That looks like that will be probably on April 14th, in that time frame. We'll get something out to you all, and I'll share it with you, Dave and Sylvia and Brent, so you can share it with whoever else you feel is appropriate. And once this recording is done rendering its video, I'll get you a link to that too, as well as the chat. So is there anything else? If not, thank you for spending some time with me today. Appreciate it. It's really good to hear what's going on.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Jim.
everyone.
Thank you, Jim.
We'll
Thank you.
talk
Thank
to
you.
y'all later.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have
Yeah.
a good day, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you. See you guys.
Bye-bye.